Bitmine is MicroStrategy on steroids. Yes, I am meaning it exactly how I say it. I believe that the stock price target for Bitmine will be $1,000. So a 30x from here when you're watching this video. And if you're watching this video, congratulations, you are early on something that could be the next MicroStrategy. And I would love to roll out this vlog with an amazing story by Michael Saylor, how he saw Bitcoin, how he transformed his whole company like Bitmine did exactly the same about a month ago, and how Bitmine will go on the same path of 30x like MicroStrategy did, but really much more faster. Let's start it. But before that, make sure to subscribe to watch every single day 1 or 2 videos on Bitmine, and maybe this will be the most important investment in the next 2 years for you.
Welcome to the game, I'm the wolf of Dubai.
If you start with $1,000, it can become $33. If you have $10,000 in Bitmine, then it can become $330,000. And if you have $100,000 in Bitmine, like someone that creates videos online, then you maybe will have $3.3 million. So huge opportunity. Let's dive into how Michael Saylor saw an opportunity in Bitcoin and transformed his whole company.
Occasionally you find a 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old who will embrace the new idea, but it's like, what is it? You have to be profoundly, intellectually curious. Larry Fink is. That's why BlackRock is going to make a fortune on this. Or you have to be desperate, frustrated, nothing to lose. I mean, the truth is I characterize myself that way in 2020. It's like the stock is like $6 a share enterprise value. The company's enterprise value is $6 a share. And my choice is sell the company and retire or take a risk and open my mind. And I remember I'm sitting at my poolside next to my friend Eric Weiss, and it's March and the lockdowns hit and interest rates go to zero, and and the stock market's crashing, and and all hell is breaking loose. And I say, so tell me about that Bitcoin thing again. It's like, so that's what you'll find that when you look at people and they're one or the other, but it takes a while for a paradigm shift. You got to really need it or want it, and that's why it's an exponential process.
So you're sitting there in 2020, and he said, tell me about that Bitcoin again with Eric Weiss.
Yeah.
And then from the moment he told you, what was your step process of researching? Was it an all-nighter till 4 o'clock in the morning? You sat up, you're like, I can't believe this is what's going on. Were you calling friends? Were you doing research? What was your process?
I said, give me the top influencers on the internet on Bitcoin. You gave me a list of people. Then I went and I watched all their YouTube podcasts. Then I went and I read all their books. I read the Bitcoin Standard. I read Andreas Antonopoulos' books on Bitcoin. I watched the debates, between Eric Voorhees and Peter Schiff on Bitcoin. Once I got through all that and I had done a deep think, then I started going in execution mode. How do I get an account? How do I buy this stuff? KYC me, set me up. And then after that, it's like massive education with my company too. Partly it was a personal track. What am I going to do? And partly is, what am I going to take my company? And that became, I sent a text message to all the officers of the company and all the directors. I said, I want you to watch these 3 videos on YouTube. And I want you to read this paper about Bitcoin. John Pfeffer wrote a paper, An Institutional Investor's View of Bitcoin. I said, read this stuff, and then we're going to talk. And so after they read it, I had a one-on-one with each one of them. And it was like basically doing the rounds, every officer of the company, every director of the company, and gradually we formed a consensus. We formed teams. We started to power forward.
And then you presented it to the clients. Hey, here's what we're thinking about doing. This is the direction we're going. Is that the next move was?
It takes from March all the way to August 10th of 2020. And on August 10th of 2020, what we did is we said, hey, we're buying $250 million of Bitcoin, but we're also going to buy back $250 million of our stock in a tender offer. The stock was like $120. This is like $12 post-split. And we offered a premium. We said, well, you can tender your shares if you don't like the Bitcoin strategy. And so that took 20 days. So the way that we actually rotated the shareholder base and got the shareholders on board with the Bitcoin strategy was we said, we're doing this. We know it's risky. We know some of you may not like it. We'll buy you out at a premium if you don't want to go along for the ride. After 20 days, only about $60 million got tendered. So we had $175 million of cash left. And so we went from 250 to 425 million in Bitcoin. Then the stock rallied, generated a lot more cash from stock option issuance. We bought another $50 million of Bitcoin. And pretty soon we're off to the races and the strategy's working. And all of our investors were on the board. They wanted to be invested in a company on a Bitcoin strategy more than they wanted to be invested in a company that was going to continue with a conventional low growth approach.
So as you can see, this is the exact path that Tom Lee is taking with some of the big investors like Peter Thiel, Stanley Druckenmiller, and also Katie Wood. And he takes this to a next level. See, if there's like second movers on something, they can go sometimes much faster, okay? Because they see, okay, what did MicroStrategy did? They took their cash, they bought Bitcoin. They issued new shares, they bought Bitcoin. They created pipe investments, invested into Bitcoin. They issued new shares, shares again and bought more Bitcoin. They created new tickers that will have the same effect, just to purpose more money into Bitcoin for MicroStrategy. And then also he gets convertible notes. So he takes the whole shelf of financial tools to buy more of the core asset. And Bitmine is doing the same, just much more faster, okay? Let's dive in the first graphic, okay? The first graphic that actually Tom Lee shared in his first chairman video was the following, okay? Treasure case study driving 30x total returns versus the underlying crypto return of 11. So what he's saying is that while a treasure company like MicroStrategy, its assets went 11x, not since they bought it, but in general in the same timeline, then the whole treasury company did 3 times as much, okay? And you're seeing it in the same fashion with Bitmine, okay? Bitmine bought Ethereum or started to buy Ethereum. It was around like 2,424 when they announced the treasury company. And then, you know, it went to almost 4,000 since then. So like a 1.5x. However, Bitmine went from $4 to $40, okay? Where it sits right now. So it's a 10x. So here you can see that the leverage that you have versus only holding Ethereum, for example, which by his bull case will be at $20,000. I think this is one of the main reasons where it's a proven case for Bitmine that they will go in the same directory like MicroStrategy, but a lot faster. And that is confirmed by the second graphic. Here you can see how fast they accumulated, okay? So imagine the following. When something is brand new, you are trying things out, okay? So MicroStrategy announced it to its investors. They offered them to buy back shares, whoever is not ready for the new transformation. And then he issued more shares, like for example, Bitmine did on Monday. You had the quick crash. I told you to buy more. It went 11% to a higher high since the beginning of the week. You can see here that all the learnings from what Michael Saylor did at MicroStrategy, they are actually implementing into Bitmine, okay? So here you can see what actually happened. BMNR, who was the, you know, ticker for Bitmine, versus MicroStrategy crypto holding growth. And you can see here that in the beginning, they had around like 265 million worth of Ethereum. And within 18 days, they 10x the holdings, okay? Obviously, this will not be like a straight line up, but you know, you can see the difference in chart where there is the days, how many days they needed to get to the same kind of crypto holdings versus MicroStrategy, okay? So this is why I'm saying Bitmine is like the better MicroStrategy. And whoever, if you were already invested from $4 to $400 in MicroStrategy, you can have now the same from $40 to $400 and then to $1,000 in maybe 2 years or something, if we have like a crazy bull market and crazy valuation. So all the premiums go up on those stocks and crypto goes crazy, right? So this is the interesting part. So let me tell you the following. Let's dive in what it means to be a Bitmine investor. To be a Bitmine investor, you need to stomach, you know, a lot of volatility. So essentially, you can see that what happened this week was a huge plunge of like 20%. Since then, we recovered around like, you know, 15%. Still a little bit down for the week, but you can see here how fast it goes, okay? And I believe, just as of today, the stock is up 11%, and I believe they will put some shares on the market to buy more Ethereum. This is the whole story. So imagine that whenever the volume is up for their stock and the stock goes higher, they want to issue some shares to the market and sell it to get more cash, because every now and then they will come out and say, hey, now we have $3 billion worth of ETH. And then we're having 4 billion, 5 billion, 6 billion, and so on until they reach the final number, which is around like 25 billion worth of ETH, depending on the, you know, market price of ETH. But just if they do that, if they just finish what they want to finish, which is like an easy task because they saw MicroStrategy is doing it already, then you can see that they actually can make this happen. And I believe that this is one of the most undervalued crazy leverage play out there that you can do. So make sure to subscribe and like. And if you want to day trade with us, with our software done for you, then check out the link into the description. It's our product. We only advertise our product here, and it's sending you all the trades, all automatically buy and sell for you. We trade US stock market options. We average about like 15% per month on average over the last 3 years. And make sure to check it out. Schedule a call if you have $10,000 or more. And I see you tomorrow with a brand new video about Bitmine.